Hey Vent, quick but long overdue updates on where we are with the community guidelines, and I'm really conscious that we haven't sort of given you a direct update post the sort of community guidelines post that we put up. This is something that we've been looking at all options and sort of digesting your feedback, getting some thought leaders involved and making sure that we've ticked all of the bases, but also having a realistic look at Vent and the future for Vent and how we can align where we're heading as a company with Vent to ensure that the community thrives, and we're also aligning with legislation globally and all the other parts. But here's my initial update, and over the next couple of weeks there's going to be lots of little bits coming out, and hopefully better communication from us. We've appointed a couple of community managers, as you're aware of. We've also just appointed a new community manager lead as well to support that team, and we've just had a new sort of chief clinical officer come in as well, who's been writing some of these new policies and sort of addressing some of the concerns that you shared also. But it's really important as a community that we have clear and concise community guidelines. And I tried to convey this, maybe I didn't do it very well over the last couple of posts, but for us to run a community and to moderate a community, we need a consistent set of guidelines that we can hold administrators and moderators to account, but also it's clear to the community exactly what content and why that content is being removed without any ambiguity. And that's something that we've struggled with on Vent. As I've sort of shared lots of times now, we took over, when we took over Vent, there was a couple of staff, and some content was coming down, some wasn't, and it was probably a lot looser than what we're used to. We tried to sort of, when we migrated it, we sort of kept lots of content going through, but what happens is administrators come on shift and then they remove certain bits of content, and then you're like, why is that removed? It's really difficult to administer any community without a clear set of guidelines and rules. And I hope that what we're putting forward now is a good mix of Vent plus a high level of trust and safety that we need to have. But starting the week of June 17, we're going to be putting out these guidelines. We're going to be putting them out there, and these are in line with global legislation. We've got the OSA Act over here in the UK, the Online Safety Act, the Harms Act, and the Child Protection Act, and lots of legislation changing in this space globally at the moment. What we can show, what we can't show, obviously around minors, which isn't as relevant to Vent, but we're more than aware that not having a strict verification system with an IG check and a bank card check on sign up isn't an age verification, so that's equally something we have to take into account. But I hope these guidelines take us towards where we need to be, and especially as these bits of legislation come out. I'm going to start with triggering and at-risk content, and this is a big cause of frustration, and I can see lots of you saying, well, I want to share content around self-injury, I've got a trigger warning, why can't I do that without having it moderated? When we look at self-injurious behaviors and that content, there's two clear buckets. One is sort of going into the graphic detail, methods, means, talking about harm in a way that could be really harmful for others. And then there's talking about the feelings and how you're feeling, wanting to engage in self-injury, but not going into the methods, means, and actions. And I think it's a really clear distinction that we need to have in our policies. So what we've done is we've gone away with the clinical directors, built out a policy just around what this content is, to make sure that there's no, again, uncertainty or ambiguity as we start to remove this content. If somebody says, I want to die, should that be removed or should it be left up? How does it align with the policies and process? And the other side of it is, well, I put a trigger warning on it. Why can't I just keep it left up? The whole legislation around this, it doesn't matter if you've got a trigger warning. It doesn't matter if you have only shown it to a small group of people. What matters is what's appropriate for a platform and what's not, and that there's no grey area content on there. So we're going to be releasing this policy, and I encourage you all to sort of read through it, and we'll be moderating to that level. Not safe for work. We've talked a little bit about this, but again, this is something we've been really ambiguous on because we just haven't come up with a plan for this just yet. I know it's at the heart of Vent. Only 4% of the posts that go into Vent on a daily basis have not safe for work. So we're not talking about a huge portion of the platform, but it is still a group of members that are using it within their rights of using it, and Vent has always had not safe for work. So we're not for a moment suggesting that what you're posting is wrong, but we are moving away from having not safe for work on the platform. While we'll still support discussions around things like sexual trauma, we'll be beginning to phase it out through 3 sort of stages. The first one being you won't be able to post not safe for work. Then we'll look at some of the groups around not safe for work, and then we will be looking at some of the legacy content on there as well. Again, to align with legislation and to make sure that this content isn't being exposed to minors or others. I think there's so many other platforms right now, and I am more than aware that some of you are going to say, you know what, this is what I do on Vent, and I want to, I want to post this content, and I'm going to do it however I want to do it. I am more than aware of this, and it's going to be a contentious topic. We're moving towards removing not safe for work on Vent, and I hope the community can see why this content is really challenging. It's a moderation challenge, but it's also all sorts of other issues that come with it. But this is where we're moving towards on that. We're also defining a lot of additional policies on hate speech, and I don't think we have done well on this. When you look at some of the disgusting things going on around the world at the moment, the policies have been vague on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And what we've seen is people attacking others. We've seen all sorts of tension and anxiety coming from these global events, and it's bloody awful. We're writing set policies for a lot of these events to make it really clear what's okay and what's not okay. And again, I think this is really important. Anything that threatens, dehumanizes, shows a level of hate towards a specific group of people needs to be immediately removed from the platform. But also we have to address some of these big contentious global events at the moment. And that's up to us. We have to get this right, and we haven't done this to date. It's really difficult. I don't think any platforms are nailing this, but important that we do it right, that everyone feels like they've got a safe place where they can communicate how they're feeling without being attacked, but equally we're not putting up with bullshit coming onto the platform, spilling over into hate or bullying or abusive content. Everyone on Vent, especially heading into, I'm more than aware this is Pride Month coming up. We've got people, all sorts of campaigns and things going on around, your journey through the LGBTQIA+ community and living with that. What we don't want to see off the back of that is an increase in hate, and it's really important that we get this right. And the last category that I want to touch on today is the low quality content. We define low quality content probably differently on Talk Life to how we're going to define this on Vent. This is, there's a couple of different ways you can handle low quality content to maintain a healthy feed, a main feed, and that's you either derank that content or you just limit the blast radius. So you only show it to a certain group of people, your mutuals and so on. I don't think we want to do an algorithmic approach where you start to see this sort of TikTok feed of the ideal content for you. We don't want to head in that direction. I don't think it aligns with my vision for peer support and what Vent is, but absolutely spamming feeds or feeds filled with single characters or emojis, or it moves at a step beyond a healthy, constructive, mature feed. So we're going to be looking at low quality content, especially around the single words. And if there are just single words or single letters, those things will be moved into mutuals, or will be prompting you as you post these things to continue the post. Lots of platforms do this, add a couple of additional words or so on. So in addition to the guidelines, we've doubled our safety team. This was a sort of a pledge we made at the end of last year. We're a small team. We're sub 50, just over 50 people now. It's really difficult for us to invest in the levels that we need for the growth of the platforms, but we're absolutely committed to making sure that these communities are safe, that the trust and safety levels are there. And again, I encourage you to hold us to account in a really constructive way. Let's make sure this is a constructive conversation. I'd say this hasn't been a smooth 12 months. I'm sure most of you will appreciate that, but I strongly just want to stress that we have spent a shit ton of time behind the scenes pushing to get policies and procedures in place to make sure that Vent is a safe community. It's not easy as we unpick some of these existing systems and the existing frameworks. I keep reiterating this, we're not trying to replicate TalkLife. That's not our plan for Vent. We don't want to users spilling over between the communities. That's not at all our mission. I want to see Vent in a really healthy and thriving place in its own right, and actually it is. It's in a. I think the numbers are significantly higher than when we took over from the other team. We've had no downtime. Had a few bugs, obviously, a little bit of lag, stuff like that. But we've been pushing updates continually and trying really, really hard to get this right. But that's not. I'm not again saying we've got this right, and I'm not asking for a pass on this. I definitely think we've screwed up in the speed of getting stuff done. That's been in line with managing Talk Campus, TalkLife, our employee networks, making sure that the things that drive revenue, that allow Vent to stay as it is and TalkLife to stay as it is, those things are continuing. Couple of other changes we're introducing. Looking at the angel system, we talked about this in December. We ran a sort of experiment in January, February. What we'll be doing and moving towards is removing all the angels and just opening those features up to everyone. While the angels sort of bring in a couple of £1,000 a month, it's nowhere near the cost of sort of the hundreds of thousands that we spend per month. So it's not going to move the bar by having these angels in there. And we love and appreciate all of the heroes and angels across our networks that have kept us going to date. But actually, there's some good features in there that should be open to all. The same as when we removed advertising. I think there's other ways to build revenue using the systems we have that don't include advertising or in-app purchasing. And I was really hit the other week. My little toddler was playing My Little Pony on an iPad, and they were going through it, and everything was an in-app purchase, and every button they hit was an in-app purchase, and it just pissed me off. And I think we've got to move away from that. How we make money at TalkLife is through our campus network, licensing a peer support community to universities and colleges, and providing additional escalation for those at risk. And obviously that's where our drives have been, and we haven't been able to invest as much time into Vent and TalkLife. And I hope with the new community managers, you're starting to see that communication lift and increase. And again, I know we need to be doing more on that front. I hope you do constructively take the guidelines, work with us, hear us out. We have gone away and taken on all your feedback. We've got this document where we're going through it all. It doesn't help to just plaster abuse or frustrations. There's certain things that we have to do. I spent some time in one of your Discords, and I found that really powerful, sort of hearing the journey that people have gone on through Vent and why Vent matters. And I want to double down that I am determined to make Vent work. I'm not giving up or walking away from this, but it does need to have some balance. We need to say, well, there has to be moderation and guidelines in place, and it can't be a free-for-all. And I know that's what most of you wants and agree with anyway. So I know you're not suggesting that. Communication. We need to move away from my posts just being the point of communication, and I think with the new community managers coming in, we can start to disseminate some of the sort of company, the places we're moving to, and some of the decisions we're making can start to be disseminated and go through other channels rather than just relying on me posting. I just don't have capacity at the moment to be able to get up the regular updates, the cadence of updates that we need as a community. But, you know, again, I love getting in there. I read comments. I love getting into threads. I might sit back and not say anything, but more than ever, I think peer support has a huge place, and we need to be creating safe communities where people can just get together and share those ups and downs of life. And that is really powerful. Pseudo-anonymous platforms like Reddit and Discord and other places where you can go and just have an open and honest conversation and say, you know what, 3 a.m. in the morning and I actually feel really shit at the moment and I don't know where to go, or I'm struggling because my parents don't understand how I'm feeling. My parents don't agree with this. I don't know how I'm going to go to school. My relationships are breaking down. I think all of those things, more than ever, we need to be bringing real people together, not having a chatbot solution. I think there's some really cool AI things that we can do in terms of moderation and reflective tools that can help us. But what I want is to bring the best possible people together in those conversations so that we can have safe and honest and transparent conversations, especially around some of the global events and what's going on. Bit of a waffle. Hopefully this is helpful. If it is, let me know. If you think that I should be saying something differently, fire it at me. Hold us to account. I want to encourage you to keep that feedback going and not to think that we're not listening or driving in any direction without you. And we've got a lot of trust to build and a lot of work to do. It's not going to happen overnight. Let's be real. These things are behemoths that cost hundreds of thousands of pounds every month to run. We are trying really, really bloody hard. And I hope that the community guidelines and some of the changes we're making are well received. If they're not, that's okay. Keep the feedback coming. The final point, if you're still watching, moderators, we're opening up a cohort of moderators on Vent as well, which I'm super excited about. We're getting through cohorts at the moment with Talk Campus and some of the buddies that we train up, but bringing moderators in from within the community as well, I think will be really, really helpful as well. So keep your eyes open for when those things go live. And I think over the next week, we're also reaching out to the top sort of 50 users who have the highest activity on the platform, just to have a chat as well if they want to and get feedback. It's not that we're saying the rest of the community doesn't matter. We're just trying to, start somewhere. All right, I'll shut up. Leave your comments on the thread in Vent, or feel free to fire anything at me. All of those policies, the self-injury policy, the community guidelines, they'll be published differently to how we did it last time on Medium. We'll make sure that you guys can jump in and have a good read, and then we'll publish them in full mid to late June as well. So we don't want to get this wrong. Ciao, bye.